Hello, everybody. NFL Week 7 in the books. This is the NFL Kickoff Show. We do it every week, Tuesday morning, 8:15, recapping the NFL action from the previous week, previewing the action that's coming up, giving out bets. If you're a CarterCast fan and you're watching this is a more betting centric. This is a more gambling centric show. As you can see, I have my record up there 26, 31, and 1 so far this year. A lot of picks. We have more coming this week. We hit the big one last week in the Lions plus 2.5 versus the Vikings. They went outright. We hit the big one 2 weeks ago in it was Bucks over Saints, I believe. And then the week before that, we had a big Giants money line plus 235 or so. So the record reflects 26, 31, and 1, sure. But the ROI is a little bit better than that, and we're hitting the big ones. So I will preview. I don't have a big one for today, but we have plenty of action. We have a couple matchups that I like. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. First off, second off, third off, tertiary. I have the live stream pulled up. Chat. If you have any chats, I will answer any relevant topics. Anything relevant. You want to say, oh, Dylan, I saw your Minnesota clip. How do you think that Minnesota's fake? We'll get into that on this show. But if you want to ask me, go ahead and ask me. Titans. Mason Rudolph might be the guy. Who knows? I'll answer that too. I have the chat pulled up. I think I want. Let me readjust this a little bit. Okay, there we go. Oh, it feels like there's too much space up here, or there was. However it may be, this is a place to come hang out, talk football. So I have the games pulled up here. I want to start with a couple talking points. If you actually, what I need to do real quick is go to the CarterCast account and link the full NFL recap show under this because it was a great show if you haven't watched it yet. I just attached it under this live stream. Please go watch it. Watch it on X, watch it on YouTube, whatever you want to do. Like, subscribe here at the CarterCast socials. We would really appreciate it as a show. I know they're doing NBA content now. A lot of great stuff going on at CarterCast. And if you like football, you like basketball, stuff for everybody. Okay, right into it. The biggest winner of this past NFL week, Jared Goff. Jared Goff, 22 for 25, 2 touchdowns, over half of EPA per play, 15.5% completion percentage, over expected. They had Jared Goff led his team on drives, 4 touchdowns from their 32-yard line or farther back. Jared Goff put this team on his back in a must-win game for the NFC North. The Vikings, hosting the Lions. The Vikings undefeated, and Jared Goff goes in there and plays an absolutely great game. 2 or 3 weeks ago, he had that 18 for 18 game. Jared Goff has looked great, and even as someone that isn't a rush threat, which is the normal profile of an MVP, Jared Goff has solidified himself at the top of that MVP race. There's no doubt in my mind because he's been efficient. He's put the team on his back. It has looked great for Jared Goff. And let's touch on that Vikings-Lions game for a second. I think something, if you watch the show, I have not been fully bought in on this Vikings team. The Action Network luck rankings are a metric that I put a lot of stock in, and the Vikings have always been very high on that, as in some regression might be inbound. And I think we saw a little bit of it Sunday, and I think more is to come. The biggest question I've had about the Minnesota Vikings is, can they come from behind? And I understand saying that insinuates they've never had to, and they haven't up until this past week. But that is something that I want to see from this Vikings team. And I understand people are going to say, oh, well, if they've never had to come from behind, that's not a bad thing. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But we saw it this week. They get behind 10 points or whatever it was. Can Sam Darnold lead this team back? And he didn't. They made it close. They took the lead late, but that was because of a scoop and score. It was not because Sam Darnold led his team down the field in some miraculous drive. So that's a question that still needs to be answered. The Vikings benefit from the scoop and score, a failed fake punt that put them at the 35, 33-yard line to start the game. The Vikings go up 10-0, and they really couldn't even put the game on cruise control like they have all year. The Lions come back, they win. A very problematic game for the Vikings. Goff diced this defense up. Now, granted, Goff has been great under pressure. He has the offensive weapons to expose the blitz when you bring guys in from coverage, something I talked about all week. Goff has been able to expose that. The offensive line held its own against this blitz-heavy defense. I think they blitzed 55 times against the Lions, and Goff held his own. I think this is a concern for the Vikings. The heavy blitz is going to work well against teams that don't have a great offensive line. I'm thinking Texans, teams like this, Rams this week on Thursday Night Football. They're going to get to Stafford quick unless they drop some quick passes. But teams like the Lions, where the offensive line is top notch, all it's going to do is put less guys in coverage for guys like Goff to make plays. So I had the Vikings as my biggest loser this week because of that. And I think we're going to see the Vikings over the course of the next couple weeks. I don't think they'll lose on Thursday Night Football. I think the matchup is very good for the Vikings. But we'll see here in the next couple weeks. They'll remove themselves from the top tier. Obviously, it was the Vikings and the Chiefs that were the last undefeated teams. They'll remove themselves from that conversation very quickly. And it's not, they're still a playoff team. They're still a good team. But 5-0 or 6-0 or whatever they were heading into this week, 5-0, sorry. 5-0 heading into this week was, I don't think they're going to continue that pace, obviously. Another biggest loser I had, Tom Brady. He is awful in the studio. Awful in the studio. I think he said something, McCaffrey was out for the year, and I definitely don't think that's the case. So, bad for Tom Brady. It's been a bad start in the booth for him. He was one of the losers that I had. Most important performance, I said the Seattle Seahawks. Look, they started out 3-0. They lost the next 3. They needed this win here against the Falcons. And this is a Falcons team. The offense is very good. They held them to 14 points. They forced a few turnovers late in the game, and they stop a good offense. They stopped the 3-game losing skid. They exposed a really bad defense, and Geno looked great. Over 12 yards average depth of target, so he was throwing the ball down the field, and he was doing it efficiently. 6% completion percentage over expected. The Seahawks looked good. They looked really good against the Falcons, and they were able to get a win on the board here when they desperately needed to in what is overall pretty weak NFC West that we've seen now with all of the 49ers injuries. Let's look through the game log from week 7. So I had the chat down, so if anybody was chatting, let's see. Maybe. Okay, no chats yet. Let me make sure there's none from YouTube. Okay. Pulling up the games here. We'll touch on a couple. We'll just briefly go through these. I will have to be done at like 8:45, so we'll try to keep it quick. Broncos Saints. The Broncos put up 33 points. I didn't get to watch this game. The Saints, have they fallen from grace since that blowout of the Cowboys? 2-5 now. I mean, staring down the barrel. Derek Carr is injured. Spencer Rattler will go this week for the Saints. He has been going for the last 2 weeks. I think the Broncos defense, that's the one big thing I want to take away, is this Broncos defensive unit is one of the best in the NFL. No matter who they play, they always stand up. It's looked pretty good. And this is something that isn't new. This was the same last year when they had, Russell Wilson. This is something that has been consistent, and I think we can expect more moving forward. Patriots, Jaguars, Doug Peterson saves his job for another week. He doubles up the Patriots, which was needed, right? I think if they lose this game, Peterson's out. Losing to rookie quarterbacks in back-to-back weeks in London is never a good look. So Peterson saves his job. Drake May, 26 for 37, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a bad performance. And we see Hunter. This is something that I've been eyeing on. Hunter Henry, 8 receptions, 92 yards. This might be Drake May's go-to guy moving forward. It really might be, because we saw him very heavy usage in this game plan against the Jaguars. I thought about picking him up in fantasy. I think I'm going to. I think Hunter Henry might be a pickup because Drake May so far has enjoyed throwing to him. Seahawks Falcons, not a good Kirk Cousins game. 232 yards, a touchdown, I believe 2 interceptions. Bijan Robinson had a great game though. 21 carries, 103 yards. We touched on the Seahawks already. They needed this win. They got a very important win here, and the Falcons look to bounce back next week against the Bucks, who are coming off of Monday Night Football short week. We'll get into that when we talk about NFL Week 8. Titans Bills, Mason Rudolph makes the start. Looked good for the first half. Did not look good the second half. Scored no points in the second half, and the Bills just poured on, causing this game to be a 34-10 final. The Titans are just in complete disarray. The defense isn't that bad. I understand in the second half, they did not look great. They were kind of gifted some short fields. Titans just turned the ball over all the time, and you can't win games when you do that. Brian Callahan even said that. You can't win games. Bengals Browns. Obviously, the big storyline here is Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles. He will be out for the year. I've been in the boat kind of this year. I'm not entirely convinced that the Browns' woes are all that they're all Deshaun Watson. They have a really bad receiving core. They have a really bad offensive line. And I understand you can look at pressure to sack ratio numbers and say, oh, well, Deshaun Watson shouldn't be taking that many sacks when he's pressured, and that's fine. I was never completely convinced that it was a Deshaun Watson issue. He hasn't been as good as he had been in the past, especially at Houston. But now it's, are we getting DTR? Are we getting Jameis? Jameis originally, DTR, he was injured. He got injured in that game. I think it was a hand injury, thumb injury. Jameis Winston comes in, but he was initially inactive for this game. He was listed as a third string. They're probably about to trade him, if you want to be completely honest. And now the things just flip 180 for the Cleveland Browns, and now they're 1-6. They have to play a Ravens team this week that just handled business on Monday Night Football against the Bucks. I don't think you consider going out and getting somebody if you're the Browns. Playoff hopes are essentially crushed. So interested to see what the Browns do there. Is it Jameis time? Do they move Jameis and get somebody else? I'm thinking that you probably have to go with Jameis, which is exciting. Jameis is a fun guy to watch. Texans Packers. I had a quick note on this game. The Packers 3 turnovers. They tried to give this game up, but they just did not do it. Now the Texans find themselves at 5-2, and they're in a similar boat, in my opinion, to the Vikings, to where the wins they haven't been very convincing. Anytime they've been forced to play one-dimensional, pass-heavy, it has not looked good. Stephon Diggs, I understand when he left Buffalo, we had a lot of questions about maybe not his character, but how he acts on the field. He gets in that scuffle at the beginning of the game with the Packers. Not a great look. Packers had 3 turnovers, 80 more yards. They tried to give the game away. They still come out on top. Does that say more about the Packers or the Texans? To be honest, I don't know. But both these teams end up 5-2, and the Packers are a team where you have the Vikings and the Lions. Packers are right there. They're right there, just waiting for one of those teams to slip up and take the NFC North. Jordan Love, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, 24 for 33. Dolphins Colts, won't touch much on this. Anthony Richardson had an awful game, and they still managed to win. Snoop Huntley. We got a little bit of Tim Boyle as well for the Dolphins. Tua is supposed to be back this week, so not much stock there. Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 176 yards, and a touchdown against his former team at MetLife, at the New York Giants. He gets booed. What do you expect, right? We had this conversation on CarterCast. Again, if you want to watch the full NFL recap, it is linked below this. Sports fans, right? It doesn't matter how good or whatever it might be. Sports fans are the most vindictive people I've ever met, especially hardcore ones. And yeah, if you didn't think the Giants were going to boo Saquon Barkley coming back, I don't know what to tell you. Raiders Rams, they tried to make this game a little frisky at the end. The Raiders did, but Rams come out on top. The biggest news here for the Rams is that Kupp is supposed to be back. So Panthers get blown out by the Commanders. Jaden Daniels goes down. He's considered week to week. The Panthers are really bad. It's as simple as that. They had that one Andy Dalton game where they had a glimmer of hope, and it's looked bad ever since. They get blown out 40-7. Marcus Mariota turned back the clock, puts up 40 points on, I think technically 33 if I remember correctly. But Panthers are bad, right? Chiefs 49ers. Chiefs win 28-18. Brock Purdy, 3 interceptions. I cut him some slack. He has earned a long leash with me. I know that doesn't really matter, but 5 interceptions total in this game because Patrick Mahomes throws 2. The 49ers injured, banged up. You have Ayuk out for the season. You have Debo, who has pneumonia, fluid in his lung. That's why he couldn't go this week. You're going to see Juszczyk get used more as a weapon in this offense, I think. He had 3 targets, 1 rush. I mean, they don't have anywhere else to go. They have Pearsall. Jawan Jennings is out. Cowling. Who are you going to put? Ronnie Bell. You might see Ronnie Bell start to get some usage because they have nowhere else to go. So Ronnie Bell might be a guy that gets more targets, especially if like Debo can't go, Jawan can't go. That's besides the point. Chiefs win this game. Mahomes puts up another performance where he didn't look that great, but he still wins games. And we're sitting here talking about an undefeated Chiefs team heading into Week 8, 6-0. Jets Steelers. This one makes me happy because I was all in on the Russell Wilson hype train heading into this year. I said, you look at his numbers from his time in Denver, they really weren't that bad. And that's given the fact that he had new head coaches, new offensive coordinators. He worked under Pete Carroll for years. And then you force him to learn a new system. He still didn't look that great. The results didn't show on the field in terms of wins and losses. But I said, hey, you have Mike Tomlin now. You have an experienced head coach that has been in Pittsburgh for a long time. And I said, this is going to make Russ look good. Russ is going to look good. And he did this game. Russ looked very good. You see a deep ball threat that was not present with Justin Fields. Either he couldn't throw it, they weren't confident he could throw it. George Pickens, this has to be 111 yards for George Pickens. Russell Wilson starting at quarterback has to be Pickens has to be through the roof right now. Two touchdowns, over 9 yards per attempt, 264 yards, 16 for 29. I posted something the other day on X. I'll share my screen. Maybe. The drive chart. Let me make it a little bigger. The drive chart for the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. We touched on the stats. The last time the Steelers scored 35-plus points, 2021 against the Los Angeles Chargers. That's the last time they scored 35-plus points. This was against a Jets defense that it's pretty good. It's the best unit on this Jets team, and Russell Wilson does this. Now, if you want to say, well, Dylan, if you watch the game, they were jump balls, you can credit a lot of those to Pickens, and I would say, fine, that's fair. That is a fair criticism to make. But Justin Fields they haven't tried that with Justin Fields, and it hasn't been successful if they have. So a lot of things looking up here, in my opinion, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because Russell Wilson looked great, and this defense is one of the best as well. So honestly, the Steelers are a team, we touched on it in the NFL recap, elevate themselves for me with Russell Wilson, a Super Bowl contender. They're going to keep winning games, guys. And I understand the AFC North is tough, but Russ looked great. A couple bad throws, missing guys wide open. I'm going to chalk that up to being the first game because he made the big throws when it mattered. And the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Jets on Sunday Night Football, 37-15. And all of a sudden, the Jets are 2-5. They trade for Devontae Adams, and things are looking bleak. They're not out of it, but things are looking bleak for the Jets. And then we'll touch Monday Night Football real quick. Ravens, Buccaneers. Ravens come out on top 41-31. Lamar Jackson, man, 5 touchdowns, just absolutely impressive performance. Derrick Henry, 169 yards, most of it from that big 80-yard-plus run. Buccaneers, the biggest news is they lose Godwin, who will likely be out for the season, and then they lose Mike Evans, who had a hamstring injury. Really bad for the Bucs. They have a short week coming up, no time to get healthy. Very, very tough for the Buccaneers. And then Chargers, Cardinals, we'll talk about that last. Justin Herbert, 349 empty yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. I will say this is what I want to see from Herbert, though. It's what I want to see from Herbert. It's very rare he has these high yardage games anymore, especially with his injuries, and it looked good. Now the Cardinals' defense isn't great, but what can you do? James Conner, 101 yards. This is concerning for the Chargers because you could always hang your hat on that defense. And I understand they held them to 17 points. What I want to do real quick, because yeah, Cardinals. I'll share my screen here. If you don't use this resource, it's a very nice resource to use. It kind of gives you an idea. You can look at baseline stats and get ideas of how the games went, but I always trust these process-oriented ones like EPA to give us a better idea of how some of these games went. Herbert, 13 EPA. Really good performance from Herbert. I think what glares here is really bad on early rush downs. Really bad on early downs in general, and then late third and fourth down, they looked pretty good. And then it was the opposite for the Cardinals. This was a really close game, and Cardinals were really bad on late downs. They just got everything done early. This game really goes both ways here. So that will conclude the recap. I'm going to have to turn my heater off. It's getting hot in here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Let me get situated here. Who wants to do some power rankings? We are all updated through Monday Night Football, which is most of the reason why I decided to do this now on Tuesdays. Let me share my screen. And hopefully the audio is better. Last week, the audio was a little crackly. Okay. The NFL Week 8 power rankings are here. Again, my weekly disclaimer, this is all based on margin of victory. It's using a simple rating system, fitting a line of best fit, assigning a point value to all of these teams. And this is essentially how much better they are than an average team on a neutral field. So the Lions are for about 5 points better. And you'll see that NFC North absolutely running the power rankings right now. We have the Detroit Lions number 1, Vikings number 2, Packers number 3, Bears number 4, Steelers number 5. Add your context. This doesn't account for the fact that Andy Reid is the best coach in football, and no matter how bad their quarterback plays, they still find ways to win. So do I think the Chiefs are the 9th best team in football? No. They're favored against, well, I wouldn't say just about everybody because they were underdogs this week to the 49ers, but that was in San Fran. So add your context here. They have Commanders 6th, Bills 7th, Ravens 8th, Chiefs 9th, Broncos 10th. That's the most surprising one right there. And that defense has done a lot of heavy lifting there. The blowout to the Saints does a lot too. We'll look at the 5 worst teams. I don't think there's any surprises here. Browns, Raiders, Dolphins, Patriots, Panthers. The Dolphins are now starting to have numbers reflect non-Tua games. That's what this is. So that will change now that Tua's back. I don't think it will change immediately, and we'll get into it for this week. But those numbers will change. But those are the power rankings. You have Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears, Steelers, top 5, and then bottom 5, Browns, Raiders, Dolphins, Patriots, Panthers. I also want to show you guys this. This is the sheet that I do to create. Oh, that's not what we want. This is the sheet that I use to create the spreads. So essentially what we have here, this is all week 8. Column H is the home team's margin of victory, or whatever team's margin of victory. I is the winning team. So essentially, like I make the Vikings a 6-point favorite to the Rams this week, and the Vikings are -3. I make the Ravens a 5-point favorite to the Browns. The Browns are now 11.5. And down that list we go. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can take a screenshot of this. This is what I make it so far, and then column J are the bets that I would make if I were just blindly betting these power ratings. And you see a lot of these are close. Some of these aren't as close. Um, like one that pops out to me, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I make them a 2-point favorite, and prior to the Evans and Godwin injuries, that was right on line. And now it's not the same. The Falcons are actually favored now. So interesting stuff here. I would screenshot it if you're interested at all in any of this. With that being said, I will stop sharing my screen. Actually, no, I won't. I will just change what I'm sharing because we're going to preview some of this week's action. I got about 10 minutes, so I'm going to try and be quick here. This will probably be a little abbreviated. We won't talk about games that don't really, that I don't have a feel on. We'll just glance on them. NFL Week 8 preview. Thursday Night Football. I'll make this a little bigger, actually. I want to get... Okay. Thursday Night Football. Vikings, Rams. You have the Vikings as a 3.5 point favorite. Here's where I stand here. The Rams have the worst pass blocking grade in all of professional football. And the Vikings are just, Brian Flores likes to blitz. I think I might have to sneeze. Hold on. I didn't mute it. I thought I muted the mic. I'm sorry. The Rams have the worst pass blocking grade. The Vikings are just going to have their day with this offensive line, and ultimately that's what keeps me from fading the Vikings as the road favorite here. Normally I would, but there is a way that this Vikings team gets home. So ultimately, staying away from this game. Titans-Lions. What I'm going to do, I have no chats, so I'm going to pull up the schedule on my phone. I understand I have it here, but there are a couple situational spots that I think are advantageous for some teams here. The Titans next week travel to New England to play the Patriots. Not a tough game, but the Lions, on the other hand, they have a game in Green Bay at Lambeau, and I think that is going to be a big problem for the Lions. I think it's a look-ahead spot. I understand the Titans are bad. I get that, right? And I don't think Will Levis goes. I think it's Mason Rudolph. But this is a sandwich spot for the Lions where they come off a game at Minnesota, close game, down to the wire. Then they have this spot where they can kind of take a breath, let off the brakes, and you're getting a Titans team that is getting 11 points in some places, 10.5 points. I think they keep this game closer than we think. I don't think the Lions drop it, but it's also a look-ahead spot for them where they have a game against the 5-2 Packers. As of now, that could change. I like the Titans here. I also like the under. So Titans plus 10.5 and the under for this matchup. Cardinals, Dolphins. We could be getting Tua this week, and I think no matter if we get Tua, if we get I almost said Clayton Tune, not Clayton Tune. If we get Tua, if we get Tim Boyle, we get Snoop Huntley. I love the Cardinals in this spot. Even if Tua comes back, I think it takes a while for him to get back into the swing of things. I'm going Cardinals plus 3.5 here, which you can get. That's Caesars, by the way. I don't want to root. Well, actually, yeah, Caesars plus 3.5 right there. I know you can't see it, but I promise you that's Caesars. There we go. Okay. Jets, Patriots. Everything in me wants to take the Patriots. I don't think I can pull the trigger. Drake May has not looked bad, and I hand up, I was surprised. I thought that this was a really bad decision to put Drake May in this early, but he really hasn't looked that bad. The defense for the Patriots has kind of put them in a bad situation. Overall, I'm going to stay away here. But follow me, turn on post notifications, because in that thread, I will put any picks I add throughout the week in that thread. And last week, I added 2 winners, the Patriots, Jags over, and Lions first half money line. Okay, we'll be quick. I'm taking too much time. This is probably one of my favorites. The Buccaneers are coming off of Monday Night Football. They lose their two top wide receivers, and then they have Monday Night Football next week against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a sandwich spot if I've ever seen one. The Falcons are coming off of their loss to the Seahawks. I love the Falcons in this spot. The Buccaneers are weak. They have a short week, and they're looking ahead to Monday Night Football against the Chiefs. Give me the Falcons minus 2.5. I think maybe there's a minus 1.5 here. Yep, minus 1.5 here on Bet365. Give it to me all day. I love the Falcons in this spot. Really bad spot for the Buccaneers. Packers Jags going to stay away from this game. Colts Texans. The Texans offense has not been that great, and the Colts, they have, with Anthony Richardson, they have such a wide range of outcomes. I am going to take the under here in this divisional matchup, under 46.5. The Texans offense has not really impressed me. The Colts defense isn't bad, and the Texans are going to be able to get pressure. So under there. Ravens Browns. Ravens are 11.5 point favorite now. I'm going to go under in this one. I think this is a situation where the Browns, even if they get Jameis or whoever it might be, the offense is not that good. And the Ravens, they're going to want to run the ball. They don't have any incentive to blow this team out. I think this is going to be a close game, under 44.5 for this divisional matchup. Eagles Bengals will skip. Bills Seahawks. I took the Seahawks here +3. And if I recall correctly, it's a look ahead spot for the Bills, maybe. They're hosting a divisional game against the Dolphins, so maybe not so much. But the Seahawks got back on track last week against the Falcons. They got a win. They stopped the skid, 3 straight losses. I think the Seahawks keep this one close. The Bills didn't look that convincing in the first half against Tennessee, and it was really a tale of two halves. So it depends what team we get here. But I like the Seahawks. I think that the offense is very good. Geno's looked great, and I think the Seahawks keep this one closer than what we think. Saints Chargers. This is a classic situation. The Chargers are coming off of Monday Night Football. It's the exact same win we cashed. Giants money line against the Seahawks. You have the Saints that are coming off of Thursday Night Football. They're well rested. They have a 3-day rest advantage against a Chargers team that played on Monday Night Football. They have a short week coming up to get ready. I understand the Saints are bad. They're starting Spencer Rattler. They're 2-5 now after starting off the season pretty hot. I think the Saints win this game. This is just the classic rest advantage here with the Saints coming off of Thursday Night Football. The Chargers' rush defense didn't look great. Maybe the Saints can get something going on the ground in this matchup. This is less a matchup of talent and more so this spot has been profitable for us before. I like the Saints +7.5, +7, whichever one you want. If you want the +100, you want the even money on the +7, or you want the 7.5. I love the Saints here +7. I love the Saints here to win this game just because of the rest advantage that the Saints are going to have over the Chargers here. Huge spot for them. Love this spot. Bears Commanders, I'm staying awake. We don't know if we're getting Daniels or Mariota. Bears coming off of a bye. You see they're 2.5, 3-point favorite. We'll stay away from that one. Excuse me. Panthers Broncos. I am going to go under here. That Broncos defense is good, and I'm still not bought in on this Broncos offense. I understand the Panthers defense hasn't been that great, but the Broncos have to show me a consistent offensive threat. And Bo Nix hasn't put up great numbers. They were able to run the ball very effectively on Thursday Night Football against the Saints, but I haven't seen any explosivity. Before I see that, I'm going to keep taking Broncos unders because that defense is elite, and I don't think the Panthers are going to be able to move the ball on the Broncos. Chiefs Raiders, you see the Raiders are in talks, or maybe they did acquire Desmond Ridder after AOC hurts his hand. I still like the Raiders here +10. This is a divisional dog. The Raiders beat the Chiefs outright on Christmas Day last year as an underdog. The number one rule of this show of CarterCast is to fade the Chiefs as more than a field goal favorite, and I'm going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. I'm going to take the Raiders here +10. Love this as a double-digit dog. Divisional home double-digit dog. And this game, the Cowboys versus the 49ers. The 49ers are banged up. The Cowboys coming off of their bye. You have Ayuk out for the season. We touched on it when we were recapping. I like the Cowboys here. I understand the defense is depleted, but the 49ers have nothing left on offense. No McCaffrey, probably no Debo, no Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. Will he be back? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. I'm going Cowboys here plus the plus the 5. I'm taking them to win outright off of their bye week. Giants Steelers Monday Night Football. I'm not going to take anything in this game. I'm fully invested on Russ though. I hope Russ looks good. Back-to-back Sunday Night Football. I hope Russ shows out here. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Monday Night Football. This isn't Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys 49ers was Sunday Night Football. Invested in the Steelers here. Invested in Russell Wilson. So I'm not going to take anything. I'm just going to hope that Russell Wilson has a great game on primetime yet again. Okay, we did it. I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you guys for tuning in. Just a quick recap of the picks we have. We have the Titans plus 11.5 against the Lions. We have the Lions, Titans under 45.5. Falcons minus 1.5. Cardinals plus 3.5. Saints plus 7.5. And money line against the Chargers. Seahawks plus 3. Raiders plus 10. Cowboys plus 5.5. And money line against the 49ers. We have the Colts, Texans under 46.5. Browns, Ravens under 44.5. And the Broncos, Panthers under 43.5. They will all be out in the tweet. Thank you guys for watching. A lot of plays this week. Best of luck to everybody. Be sure to tune in to the college football preview if you're interested in that. And we are recording our NFL preview today. It'll be out probably tomorrow or Thursday. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I'm going to send the outro in. And until next week, again, appreciate you guys watching.